Welcome back.
Thanks.
Nice to see you.
Well, I'm so happy to be back.
You were missed.
Well, I brought you a present.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, my goodness. Crinkle, crinkle, crinkle.
Couldn't go to Ireland and not bring you back some knitted goods. So these are socks from Conmara.
Oh, my goodness. How come you just didn't knit some for me yourself?
Because knitting socks is a really long process.
These are beautiful. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Oh, my goodness. I love it. You had a good time?
I had a great time. I was on an Irish knitting tour. The most wonderful, kind ladies. Amazing tour guide named Michelle. She was just great. Met so many smart, wonderful, fun, accomplished women who just had a great time.
Good. And kiddos? She had fun?
My mom had a good time. Yes, I unknit a lot of her rows, but she did a lot of her own knitting.
Oh,
so
good job, kiddos.
yes, I did not have to, do too much of her work and finish lots of projects. Well, I finished lots of projects. She's in the process of finishing projects, and it was great.
Good. Welcome home.
Thank you.
I thought we'd just jump in actually with something around your return here to the United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it about tariffs? Because that's all I heard about when I was away.
It's not about tariffs.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two sentences at the top of the script. I was wondering if you could read them for us, and then we'll talk about them. They're essentially the same sentence. So just read them in your own natural language and then just unpack for the listening audience. Andre, I'll give this to you that you can put it into the video feed for folks who watch on YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify.
All right. Liz came back from Ireland fresh off a covert mother-daughter knitting retreat, just in time to reclaim her mic in the podcast studio.
Okay, great. And then the second one?
Liz came back from Ireland fresh off a covert mother-daughter knitting retreat, just in time to reclaim her mic in the podcast studio.
Okay, so if you're watching on any of these video feeds, you can see the difference, but to the listener, they're indistinguishable.
They are.
Yeah, so just talk to us about the punctuation. What's going on here?
Well, the first one has a dash in it, so mother-daughter knitting retreat dash, just in time to reclaim her mic. And the bottom one has mother-daughter knitting retreat, comma, just in time to reclaim her mic. And I mean, both made me pause.
Okay.
Stop.
Yep.
Kind of take a breath, but keep reading.
Okay, cool. So actually, there's both a hyphen and a dash, right, in the first one? Do you notice that?
Oh, yeah. So mother-daughter is a hyphen.
Yep.
And then a longer line, I guess, is considered the dash between retreat and just in time.
Okay, great. Do you know what that longer dash is called?
An M dash or an N dash?
How did you know that?
Because I'm
literate.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you know that this is kind of all the rage? This M dash is all the rage on the social media around AI, especially on LinkedIn?
Idea. Missed that one.
Yeah. Have you noticed in any of occasionally you might use AI to do a little writing for you. Have you noticed the M dash, the long dash in there?
I haven't in particular.
Yeah, I have. And I've actually wound up editing it out just because it just looked weird to me. And I don't want anything that looks weird. So I guess it was a tell. And so I took it out. Yeah. I dropped in a LinkedIn post. There are many LinkedIn posts if you look up the M dash, but this one is about whether or not the M dash is a giveaway. So our M dash is a sign of AI in writing, and we have yes, total giveaway 11%, no, they're good punctuation 63%, and maybe depends on context 26%. So yeah, people are going a little bananas over this whole M dash thing.
I mean, that's interesting. I am a terrible comma user. We've talked about that on the podcast before, that I don't always know when to put a comma in. I know when I'm reading where a natural pause goes, but I think I used to tend towards overuse of commas, and then I was given the mantra, when in doubt, leave it out. So then I underuse commas now, but Grammarly or, whatever on my computer just kind of puts them in. And
right. That's the thing. So Grammarly, and especially now ChatGPT. In fact, they're starting to call this thing the ChatGPT hyphen, which I think is very funny.
Oh.
I didn't even know. I was like, how do you make an M dash? Because I don't know how to make one on the computer. I had to look it up on Perplexity. So on the Mac, at least where we live, it's shift plus option plus hyphen will give you the M dash. But it is quite likely that many of the high school kids and other folks who might be using AI, college students, to write probably don't even know how to generate an M dash. So to me, on that poll, the 11% yes total giveaway feels a little higher. Liz, I dropped in a really interesting opinion from LinkedIn. Why don't you give us a dramatic Liz reading?
Okay. On the one hand, the received opinion that the long dash is a product of generative AI that basically didn't exist in years past is a worrying sign about public literacy. Celebrated poets and philosophers from Emily Dickinson to Friedrich Nietzsche have been known to flaunt them in expressive ways, and many people serious about the craft of writing find them useful. Having no basic familiarity with it as a mark on the page is perhaps a measure of one's limited reading.
Ooh.
That said, famed grammarian and lexicographer Brian Garner has called it perhaps the most underused punctuation mark in American writing, so that could be a factor.
Huh. All right, so maybe the M dash has a place to live here. It's interesting because I have put into memory on ChatGPT something we're going to talk about today. I've requested, because there's a few tells of late. You know, we used to talk about delve. Lately, the M dash, the ellipses, right? Lots of use of the ellipses, dot. And then certainly the sparkle emoji. So I have put into memory on multiple occasions. I'm fine with the ellipses. I don't love the M dash. I am really, really, really tired of seeing all sorts of emojis and various iconography in my ChatGPT outputs. And so I've put it into memory. Please don't use icons. Please don't use emojis. I put it into, the context window saying, hey, can you just stop doing this? It refuses. Now, we're going to talk about a story today where they say that it is updating memory flawlessly. But so far, I cannot kill the sparkle emoji, the check emoji, the thumbs up emoji. I don't want any damn emojis.
Huh.
All right.
Can you check something for me? Can you go in and see if you put two hyphens next to each other, if it autocorrects into an M dash? In a Google Doc, type something, put two dashes, and see if it defaults it into an M dash.
Right, so Liz went away, dash, whoop, and then came back. Now, did you make me do that because I have to now put on my reading glasses to see whether or not those two hyphens turn into an M dash?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you're a genius, Dr. Ade.
Smart.
All right.
So that is another way to do it, because I have used them before, and you can do it without that shift option thing, whatever. So if you want to get into M dashes, as Emily Dickinson and Friedrich Nietzsche have demonstrated their use, there is an easier way than having to do that. So two hyphens autocorrects to an M dash.
All right, let's get the M dash going. I love it. I put something else into the overview here for us that we look at.
Yeah.
It's a little picture. Do you see it?
I do.
Yeah, tell us about what you see there.
It's a little creepy doll.
It's a creepy doll.
Yeah.
There's a great musician named Jonathan Colton who has a really fun song called Creepy Doll.
Well, this is...
So say more about the creepy doll.
I mean, it's...
It's creepy. Is there more to say?
Yeah. So it's like a sitting doll. It's got like a big round belly and a really odd haircut. Black hair, kind of glued to its head. I think it's female. It's wearing a bow tie. It's dressed in blue with a pink bow tie. Maybe it's non-binary. Maybe it's meant to not be either gender. I don't know what this is, Matt.
Okay, but it's not making you happy.
It's not. It's not something I want. It looks like it's on their kitchen counter. That is not something I would want on my kitchen counter.
All right. Now, I know you forgot your MacBook today because who needs a MacBook for podcasting? But are you able to get to your text messages?
I can, yes.
On your iPad?
I can.
Okay, excellent. So just stand by, Andre. All right, Liz, so did you get the image I sent over?
I did.
Okay, and tell us about the creepy doll now.
Yeah, there's an older Japanese woman, like talking to the doll or something, interacting with the doll, facing the doll.
Okay. Do you feel any better about the creepy doll?
No, it is
really
still, I mean...
But she looks happy and engaged, right?
She does look happy and engaged, yeah. I mean, I guess she doesn't seem to think it's creepy. She looks happy.
Yeah, let me tell you what's going on here. This is a thing called the Hyodol. It brings AI-powered companionship to senior care in the United States. This is on Trend Hunter. South Korea's FDA-approved Hyodol is launching in the U.S. in 2025 to support solo living seniors, which would be my mom, for instance. This emotionally intelligent AI-powered companion offers medication reminders, conversations, emergency alerts, and cognitive games, all with a little childlike, what Liz calls creepy robot. It integrates with smart home systems and enables real-time health monitoring by caregivers. With rising loneliness and cognitive decline among older adults, Hyodol represents a heartwarming and functional leap in elder care technology.
So they want old people to have this doll on their counter and like interact with it, and it's going to remind them to take their meds.
Yeah, and have all sorts. I mean, look, how often are you talking to Hey Pi about stuff going on with your daughters?
Yeah, but I feel like I know that that's a machine. This is a little. I don't know. I don't know that I would. Like, I'm thinking of all the women I was just on the trip with. Many of them are over 65 and live independently.
Wait, seriously? You were on a knitting trip and all the women are over 65?
They were the most kind and wonderful women. So
Carry on.
I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Many of them live singly. And I just don't know that I could see any of them wanting this doll and engaging with the doll. But I mean, I guess people talk to Alexa and they're smart robots, but I don't know. I think making it into a doll is strange.
Okay. What would you make it into? A knitted blanket?
No. I think I like my robots to look like robots. I think that's where I'm losing it. Is like, if I'm talking to a robot, I want it to look like a robot. Like, I think of the Jetsons. Like, Rosie, their robot maid, looked like a robot because she was a robot. I don't know how I feel about trying to make a robot look like a doll.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in having grandchildren, so in the meantime, I'm happy to take a Hyodoll.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Radde.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI and education. In today's episode, Dear AI, Why We're All Talking to Robots in 2025, speak of the devil, we'll unpack a new study that uses Reddit to shed light on how our use of AI is changing and what it means for K-12 and higher education.
But first, in the news, we'll get super deep as we look at the latest deep research tool in the AI toolbox. Next, we'll explore a cool new business school example of AI in the wild. Then we'll go beneath the surface with Harvard Business Review and examine how we've moved from a mix of business and personal in 2024 to a heavy shift towards the personal in 2025. And of course, we'll end with another great Bright Bite.
Okay, Liz, as you said, we're getting deep, and we are getting deep on deep research. This is a topic we've talked a little bit about. So in this case, we're covering the Gemini. So OpenAI has deep research and ChatGPT, although I think it's still in the paid version. Perplexity has deep research. Actually, Perplexity also just released this cool new voice model that we might chat about. And now Google's Gemini has deep research in their 2.5 Pro model of Gemini. And so this story specifically is about Gemini's deep research, how it has just changed the game. So we've got this piece from Tom's Guide by Amanda Caswell, spotlighting the launch of deep research within Google's, as I said, Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental. Yeah, so Caswell basically says this is deep research on steroids.
Yeah, so this model of deep research isn't just summarizing, it's actually synthesizing, so pulling together multiple pieces and drawing some conclusions. Caswell's description of it is a personal AI research assistant that moves beyond browsing to structured report-style research in seconds.
Yeah, and Liz, you'll be shocked to find out that in their internal testing, participants found that they like Gemini's deep research way more than Perplexity's or OpenAI's.
Wow, that's shocking.
It's great to have internal research. Who knows? Could be totally valid. Have you played with deep research? Have you made a deep research thing?
I have. I'm trying to think of what I've done deep research on. Things for mostly on AI that I'm writing about, and personal interest projects and kind of capstone projects. I've done some of that deep research.
Okay. Well, let's dig in. I'll tell you about mine, but let's get a little deeper here. So tell us about the tool. Like, how does it actually work?
Okay, so it auto-generates comprehensive, easy-to-read research documents. So it transforms how users are approaching these like really large and complex topics. It's not just an upgrade to like a Google search. It's really doing a lot more than that. It's, Google really repositioning itself as AI being the researcher.
Right. And it's sort of agentic, right? So you put in a prompt, and then this thing is basically doing analysis and synthesis. There's kind of limited prompting at some level. You're like, hey, write me a research report on X, Y, or Z. So this is a shift in the cognitive labor. So we're not, as you said, we're not doing a Google search as if we could even get to the 12 links anymore and then opening them up, laterally reading across them, doing analysis. It is essentially scanning the entire world of resources and then kind of parsing through them in interesting ways. So, for instance, I did one this morning, which was, tell me about the landscape of new media, including podcasts, YouTube, and social media feeds like TikTok in the world of AI and education as compared to traditional ed tech coverage, right? And so it ran off and went through probably about 65 websites. And it's interesting, too, because it only winds up using, in whatever the report is, maybe a quarter or a little bit more of those because it's gathering the data, doing that synthesis and analysis, but only keeping the pieces that it finds relevant, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, that's really important. I mean, we spend a lot of time reading and, ending up not using it. So that's so cool that it can kind of do it. And this kind of synthesis isn't just about that speed, though. There's this equity piece that I always love to come back to, and it's about access. So students who don't know or haven't experienced the modeling of how to do research are seeing how these models do the research. So it's scaffolding for them if they want to or need to do their own kind of research synthesis.
Yeah, we would encourage everyone to try a deep research function, especially because it's free on Gemini now. Because if you teach research with kids or are responsible for students learning research skills, this does raise a series of questions, right? Because as Liz just noted, I mean, it's kind of doing that research function. So what is the skill? We so often come back to this. This is the Chesterton's fence sort of story.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the skill of research, and are we going to outsource it to AI, or do we still need to have mastery around research because we need to fact check the quality of the outputs? I mean, it opens up more questions. It solves some problems. Like if you're in the job of doing a white paper on any topic, you now have a speed tool, but it also raises questions about what does it mean to facilitate the development of those skills for kids and students in college, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm thinking about dissertation research where a totally legitimate dissertation could have been an analysis of all the research on a particular topic.
Right.
And now it's like, and not doing a separate experiment or, running some sort of testing, just doing a deep analysis of the research and bringing together all of the pieces because nothing else could do that. It had to be human. And now that can be done, I think that's drastically going to change what dissertations and what research looks like. Because if I can now run this, and pull together all the research on a topic, what new am I bringing to the table?
And trust me, I hang on your every word, but one of my favorite observations that you've made over the last 6 months is when we were talking about your dissertation, right? And at one piece, your dissertation was this meta-analysis, what you've just described, look at the research and say thoughtful things. But then the rest of it was actually working with a group of students and exploring their lives relative to the meta-research. So you brought something novel through the experiential component, human to human, working with kids and understanding their lives and their lived experience with respect to math and equity and aspirations and mindset and all sorts of cool stuff. Do you love how much I've internalized your...
You have. You've been listening to me.
Every other night I just read it when I'm...
Do you?
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, God, I just need a couple more pages of Liz's dissertation.
To put me to sleep.
Yeah, but I mean, I hope that is the bar, right? Because if meta-analysis is now commodified, essentially, anybody can do it. This thing can do it in 3 seconds. What is novel and unique that we're bringing to the research experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because there's a difference between an EDD and a PhD. And in some schools, there's not a big difference, but typically an EDD, which is what I have, is a practical degree. And so almost everyone that gets an EDD is doing some sort of applied research where they do some sort of experiment, where a PhD was always considered much more philosophical. And you weren't necessarily doing in the classroom, in a school, in a district project. You are, kind of thinking at 10,000 feet. But if the 10,000 feet can be done with a computer, there's going to be a lot more value in practical application of all this philosophy.
Yeah, I think on your LinkedIn profile, you should now say EDD for the win because I'm cooler.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it is different than that other doctor, isn't it, though? Yeah. All right, so it's not just Gemini. We should be clear about that. This is not a puff piece or marketing piece for Gemini, but boy, are we talking about Google a lot lately as they bring a lot of resources together in interesting ways. Perplexity has a deep research tool, which is free and you can check out. Even simple Perplexity searches now, by the way, you're noticing they do mini deep research. So you'll watch them sort of scan 4 or 5 websites. This whole watching it do the thing is also a little bit of marketing because it wants you to see it processing and meta-reflecting, but that's a design user interface choice they make. They don't have to show that, but it's making you go, ooh, look at that. Do that research. It's amazing, right? So Perplexity's got one, OpenAI's got one, and then, of course, our favorite was
Storm.
Storm.
Yeah, I mean, that was the model from Stanford, which we featured on an episode, it seems like probably almost exactly a year ago. It was one of our early episodes. The storm rolled in. But this was kind of one of the first tools we looked at that made people really kind of rethink what agency looks like in AI. And Gemini's deep research is doing that same thing, like high quality synthesis, not just retrieval and summarizing. It's really bringing together multiple articles. And that's a different skill than initially just bringing together and summarizing.
Yeah. So how do you think this can be used and applied in schools?
There are so many different ways. One is, district business managers preparing 5-year capital plans, or special ed directors looking at all the research that comes out, or new guidance from IDEA, school counselors looking at best practices for, screen time for adolescents. These are complex, evolving issues. There's always new information, and this tool can really help bring all of that together and still get you the information you need coming from multiple sources. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I love all those. I think, teachers as well, EL coordinators could do one on the latest trends. Teachers can do one, or special ed folks can do. It's sort of same thing. I think it is ability to bring lots of different resources together. The business manager one reminds me that for a couple school districts where we have both growing and shrinking populations in our region, in those towns where I've been out doing like keynotes or training, did some deep research around, tell me about the demographic changes for insert town here over the next decade. And I could even include things like in a school district where the population was shrinking, I asked it to also do an analysis of open land, like municipal land, that if they needed to close 2 buildings and put them together and build a new building on one. So do an analysis of open land, do an analysis of private land.
Yeah.
I mean, school districts typically pay folks like tens and tens of thousands of dollars to do this kind of quote unquote deep research. So it's been fun to look at that.
And have you found it all to be pretty accurate?
I mean, I don't know the towns well enough to really know. That's the problem. But I guess real quick, anecdotally, so I did one. My older son works for a nonprofit in the southern Berkshire County in western Massachusetts. The organization, I won't say who it is, but because they've had some naming issues as a new organization, they called themselves one thing, and then they called themselves something else, right? And so I asked AI to do some deep research around this field. It's about microtransit, which is kind of like a alternate to Uber for folks who don't have a lot of resources in rural areas. It's a fascinating kind of field. Okay. So I said, do a microtransit analysis of the Southern Berkshires and then compare it to microtransit in other parts of the southern New England. And so because these guys changed their names, the deep research output said, oh, we have this one program called X, and then there's this other program called Y, but they're actually the same program. But because they're on the internet and deep research was scouring away, and believe it or not, this is a great example of how that scaffolds into a problem, because the state has earmarked a little bit of money for microtransit in the region, and it's based on the idea that there's only one provider. And if they did a deep research brief, they'd be like, that's weird, there's 2 providers. Now we got to figure out how to split this money in half. So yeah, I mean, the world of critical thinking, as we always say, is critical.
Yeah.
Not going away.
Definitely. That's a great case. All of these tools are cross-functional. They run on Android. They run on iOS. You can do it on the web. You can do a lot of it even on your phone or on an iPad or a tablet. Using Gemini's audio overview can really just... Now you're looking at accessibility for learners who prefer voice or auditory input, or I don't know, you might know someone who drives a lot and is just looking for another way. I mean, sometimes these things are all so great. And then sometimes I'm like, no, Matt, just listen to music while you're driving and slow down. And it's okay. Just listen to some Grateful Dead. You don't have to listen to Jerry reading to you.
Well, I have good news for you. So I tried to, isn't it funny? Google is throwing that audio overview from Notebook LM anywhere they can. Yeah. I saw Brisk Teaching just found they've added podcasts into their thing.
Of course.
It's a really good indication of how we're going to move from the blinking cursor and text into multimodality. Everybody loves the podcast thing. So I had Gemini do this great deep research on AI, education, podcasts, YouTube. I was thrilled, by the way, to see that ChatEDU was prominently featured in. I was a little anxious. And I was like, okay, great. I want to send it to Liz as an audio overview so she can listen to it in the car. And there's a function that says convert into audio overview, but it keeps saying, I'm not programmed to assist with that. After clicking on the button that says convert into audio overview. Yeah, my Google, I love Google, but my Google Home, at any given moment on my phone or in my Google Home at home, I could say, hey, set a reminder to do X, and it will set the reminder. And the very next second, it will say, sorry, I can't help with reminders. And we call you artificial intelligence. But Liz, this is not just K-12. There's got to be a higher ed hook here too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a great tool for provosts, research deans, curriculum leads, people bringing together, policies and expectations for accreditation and grants. But some of this is already, like these tools like deep research are being pitched as a replacement for traditional search and synthesis in some academic contexts. But there's this whole student side of it, and how do we teach students to train it, and what does that look like? Where is what we're teaching students and what they need to do versus, if this can be done. I mean, I'm thinking about 95% of the assignments that I did in college that were very high level thinking and difficult and painful and long to do could be done with AI at this point. I mean...
Yeah, higher ed, you see it all the time. There's a little bit of a crisis going on.
Yeah.
Right? But experientially, here's the hook, right? Go try it. So if you haven't played with it, it's free for you in Google's Gemini. Use your Gmail, click on the waffle icon. You'll go to Gemini. You'll see deep research in the drop-down menu with the 63 other models that are available to you within Gemini. And just put a research task that you're interested in and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Give it a whirl. All right, Liz, let's do a little AI in the wild.
All right.
We need a sound effect for this, Andre.
It could just be me.
We don't need a sound effect. We have Liz. Yeah, so these are stories where we're profiling where AI is being used in a context where kids are like really applying in a real world fashion. We believe that this drives to some of the skills that students will need in an AI dominated world. In this case, it is a higher ed story from American University. And Axios has covered this story. This is American University's School of Business has launched an Institute for Applied Artificial Intelligence aiming to infuse AI across the entire school, not silo it.
I love it. Dean David Marchick said, when 18-year-olds show up here as first years, we ask them, how many of your high school teachers told you not to use AI? And most of them raise their hand. We say, here, you are using AI starting today. I love it.
Game on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are really flipping the script, right? Instead of treating AI as a threat to learning, they're making it a gateway to real-world readiness.
They acknowledge that they are not trying to be Stanford or Caltech. They are producing business people. And they are, reframing AI from something super technical and codey and STEMmy to something every student should be fluent in. No coding required. Not just for STEM anymore.
Yeah, and I love it. And the Axios story kind of outlines the different ways that they're doing this. So students are learning how to use AI for a marketing campaign. Just think about ChatGPT's new image generation tool and the implications for developing and rapidly iterating marketing campaigns. So they're using AI for marketing campaigns, for working with balance sheets, for financial statement writing, for investment underwriting and risk modeling. And it's not theoretical. They're being taught to use AI to do the work and also to check the work, as we've just been saying with deep research.
Yeah, this is what the real world is going to look like. Students are asked to interrogate and refine those outputs, not just blindly accept them. It's this productive comfort where students are pushed to critique, rework, improve what the AI generates. It's, they're not using AI as a crutch here. They're really using it as a catalyst to spark more, like take what AI can do and go further.
Right. And think of the skills that are being developed, right? So now we're thinking about analytical thinking, collaborating with AI, systems thinking, systems evaluation. So again, I encourage folks, I don't know why this World Economic Forum thing has become kind of the Bible to us, but I think it's a relatively clear snapshot of the skills that students will need. And while an AI tutor could be a helpful way to build some kind of core academic understanding, if you're going to be able to do analytical reasoning, problem solving, working with human beings, you have to use AI in the context of solving real world problems. So almost like the hell are those projects called, where the kid has an interest and they follow their interest?
It's called a personal interest
That's
project.
It. Right. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the little infrastructure here too. They've picked a platform to do this on. So who are they doing this with? OpenAI, I assume.
Perplexity.
Oh, Perplexity.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. It's definitely a cage match out there in higher ed.
Yes. So they are using this Enterprise Pro model, and they are piloting actually a new education-specific version. So we'll see how it goes.
I love the way the story put it, too, because from the infrastructure, like the use of Perplexity, it's not like, oh, we're using this app. They are treating it like Wi-Fi or their learning management system, which is a really good way to think about it. Like, this is core, right?
Right.
Wi-Fi, nothing could be more core to a higher ed setting than your Wi-Fi.
Right.
And then your LMS right after that.
Yeah. I mean, Blackboard is the LMS I'm most familiar with, but like I haven't taken a class in the last, I keep taking classes, but I mean, I was using Blackboard, I feel like back in the early 2000s, late 90s, maybe even when I was in college. And it's just, and now to have the AI just built in.
Listen, can I just, I'm a little older than you. Can I just impart some wisdom?
Sure.
Stop taking classes, stop listening to music, and just let Jerry Garcia read to you all the time. It's going to be great. You have a long drive too.
I know. Right, I wish I could knit.
What's knitting while driving?
Yeah.
I have a new car that does a little bit of lane assist.
Oh.
It's kind of wild. Like, you can't quite knit, but boy, you can see it coming, which is cool. All right, so, but also some don't trust it blindly there too. I'm eyes on the road always.
Yes, Talia's always very concerned when I talk to you on the phone that you should be paying better attention.
Yeah, she's probably right. All right, so what's the implication for K-12?
Stop banning, start building, I think is like the major headline. So, why can't we do this in high school? Business pathways, where students are asked to analyze risk, design marketing strategies, simulate investment scenarios, and then go beyond the business pathways. Students in ELA should be using AI to compare interpretations of a poem, or, I can see it, right? Like, use Google's model, use OpenAI. What do they both say about this Emily Dickinson poem and how she uses the M dash, right? Like,
you could simulate like a Lincoln Douglas debate.
Exactly.
That was one of my favorites because I was a debater. So like, what would that look like? Debating the 14th Amendment or what else? We've talked about this before, but you could use AI vision to take like a science lab and run theoretical analysis of it.
Absolutely. We are so far beyond, or need to be so far beyond, is this cheating? We need to be asking, is this teaching synthesis, reasoning, and critical thinking with the tools students will actually use?
Yeah. Maybe it's like hold both things in our head at the same time. And you and I always say like, oh, we got to go beyond the cheating thing. But every single faculty I sit down and work with, they're deeply, deeply concerned because they care about kids developing the skills that they, believe
Absolutely.
are vital to them. So it's kind of like we gotta deal with the cheating thing, but also set real world context in which kids are learning to use AI in ways where they are analyzing, problem solving, working together, human to human, human to AI, all that good stuff. Yep. I like it. So, and I think for superintendents, this is a higher ed story because it's AI in the wild. Do that sound effect again. That was great. That's it. But clearly these are all things, as Liz just illustrated, we could be thinking about in K-12 as well. So, but for the rest of the higher ed world beyond American University, I don't know, are they like a canary in the coal mine or a signal of what folks might consider or explore?
Maybe. This has to kind of ripple through teacher prep, through schools all over the place. We've got to be teaching students how to use it, how to bake it in, and not add it on. This should not be an add-on. It should be baked in is the ultimate takeaway.
Yeah, I love that. It's not a side app. It's the equivalent to the Wi-Fi or the LMS.
Right.
Very cool. All right. This is our third AI in the wild, I think. Fourth?
It's a couple, yeah.
Yeah, we're down on this thing.
Yeah, I love it.
Now that we have a sound effect, God, forget it. Every week.
Hi, I'm Cameron Audia, executive producer of ChatEDU. Our AI and education micro-credential is full, thanks to many in the ChatEDU audience. If you'd like to join the waitlist for the next cohort, visit skills21.org/AI/micro. For school and district leaders looking to bring AI training to their entire learning community, ChatEDU and EdAdvanced offers a self-hosted, flexible course that you can run on your own terms. This program builds a strong AI foundation for educators and constituents, covering key concepts, advanced prompting, AI-driven assessments, multimedia creation, and AI-ready classrooms. Interested? Email chatedu@edadvance.org.
All right, Matt, now it's time to go beneath the surface as we explore how AI use has been shifting from last year to this year.
Do we have a sound effect for beneath the surface? Like bloop, bloop, bloop. It's not nearly as fun as your. You gotta join the video feed, people. Hop on Spotify. Because Liz both gave you the growl, but there's a serious oh my god, okay, that's the last one for this episode. We promise. We got to keep our stickiness rate going just fine. This is really interesting. This is from a fellow named Mark Zhao Sanders. How people are really using Gen AI in 2025. This is in Harvard Business Review, published on April 9th. And so in this report, Sanders, who did this in 2024. He did the study that went viral because basically, Liz, his methodology is deep and scientific. He goes as deep as he can into Reddit and Quora posts, focusing on the last 12 months. So it's not a survey. It's kind of very qualitative and grounded. He personally read and categorized the conversations, building out a top 100 use case list ranked by real world impact. So this is like shoulder to shoulder, deep analysis. You're a researcher. What do you think of a study where you're basically just like going head first into Reddit to explore how we're using AI?
I'm wondering why he didn't just put it all into ChatGPT and ask it to summarize all the different uses.
How do you know that he didn't?
Maybe he did.
All right.
Yeah, no, this is so cool. This is real data. This isn't a survey, which on surveys, people tend to make things up or they try to give you the right answer. Many people take them the right way.
Has that been your observation as the director of research innovation here?
It depends on what I'm researching.
Okay.
So, but I think in general, we're seeing from his research, like 40% of these 100 use cases are new. And the biggest shift is not in technical uses. It's really like these emotional uses. It's, the
So
top,
like what?
Therapy and companionship,
Okay.
organize my life, and finding purpose were the three categories that are not, this is not automation. This is like AI as existential support.
Huh. I like the way you said that. That should have been the title of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So he also talks a little bit about tools. So what's going on there from people's perspective?
The landscape has diversified a lot over the last year. So there's newer tools that weren't even available a year ago. DeepSeek, Grok, Notebook LM, massive rise in people creating custom GPTs. It's no longer about one tool. It is a whole ecosystem and tools are being used in so many different ways. And it's not about speed because all these tools work quickly and you're not going to move from one to another just because one is 3 seconds and one takes 5.
Right.
It's really about how tools are able to focus, how they're using memory, and how they're using modeling.
Right. And the people themselves, he notes as he looks at all these Reddit and Quora posts, are becoming more sophisticated. So he points out that people are evolving, especially around their prompting, right? They're using multi-turn, kind of chain of thought stuff, using AI as a collaborator, not just a shortcut. Connects that OpenAI's move towards a unified interface. So the idea that I'm, used to use like an image tool for this and I used a different kind of tool for that. We're starting to see consolidation of these tools. And so as they do, people are getting more sophisticated in the way they use them. And his observation is that they are becoming the operating system, both of work and of life.
Yeah.
All right, so let's unpack some of the use cases. So insights in organizing my life is the number 2 use case. Again, like the kind of top 100 are ranked here based on all these Reddit posts. And so we're going to just read from a few. I just asked it to create a timeline for me, clean and organize my house before having guests staying over. So this sounds basic, but this is where AI is moving from, help me write this email to somebody to become my planning assistant, my task coach. I mean, we did a piece on executive functioning a while ago and how generative AI can help students with executive functioning challenges. I mean, at some level, we all have executive functioning needs. And so people are really using generative AI as an unlock for those types of tasks.
The number 3 entry was finding purpose.
Ooh, deep.
So these are posts about meaning, recovery, motivation. One user said, it helped me get unstuck after losing my job. And another said, it reminded me I'm not broken, just overwhelmed. I mean, there is clear value here for counselors, student advisors, coaches, especially in educational settings where scaffolding mental load matters. I mean, people are asking big questions.
And there's different questions based on where they are, right? So for higher ed, I mean, for K-12 counselors and advisors and coaches, I think it's important to know this is happening, but also raise some questions and concerns about data privacy and age and FERPA and all this kind of stuff. In higher ed, I mean, we know this is happening no matter what. Everybody's voting with their feet. They're starting to turn to these tools as a companion, as you said, to try to help deal with people's purpose and finding purpose. So we just have to acknowledge that that's the case. Now, memory, as you noted, Dr. Radde, becomes a critical part. So if this thing is going to be your companion, your thought partner, your coach, your executive functioning assistant, if it can't remember one day or the next how messy your room is or whatever it is that you're trying to deal with your existential support system, it's got to know you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to know you because otherwise it's not helpful.
Right. Now, in between, I'm gonna have you tell us about this, but in between the HBR report coming out and us recording this podcast, OpenAI made a big announcement with respect to memory.
So there was an Ars Technica report from April 10th. OpenAI just rolled out a major expansion to ChatGPT's memory. Now it can reference your entire chat history, not just saved facts. So the users can still toggle it off, but there's not this granular control. You can't edit or see what it remembered. So it can't be like, remember this part, forget this part, which is interesting because we use it for so many different things and blur the lines of work and home and blur the lines of what we're researching versus what we're interested in versus what we're researching because we're not interested in it being in our lives. So, I mean, I have things in there on everything that is going wrong with my life as well as with everything that's going right, and everything from my trip to Ireland to my 16-year-old to parenting to work. It's all in there. And so if it is remembering all of that and trying to jumble it together or like make sense of me as a human but not be another human, I don't know how well it'll do.
Yeah, Ethan Malik actually just posted over the weekend about this. I'm going to just make a little speculative guess here that this announcement, and we've covered memory. We just covered a story on Gemini using your search history for personalization as well. Everybody's doing this. I'm going to bet that this winds up being the most important thing that happens this entire year, 2025, is where we go with memory, right? Because it so far was kind of faulty and had limitations, and it was based on you manually hitting that setting that says update memory. You could tell it to forget this and forget that. And to your point, forget it. Like it's capturing everything.
Right.
So Malik's post was basically, as you said, like, I don't know if I want my personal and my work together. Maybe this winds up being like, the personal phone and the work phone. We'll have to see. It's not just, even within work, it gets confusing, right? Because when I'm out doing training, I'm very often modeling the use of like voice, talking to people about all sorts of stuff. Right. And so it thinks at any given moment I'm Azerbaijani, or I've got a third grade kid where I'm dealing with a special education issue or a speech language pathology issue, right? Because I'm engaging with the audience around it, but it's from me. And so it thinks, oh, Matt Mervis has it thinks I'm like wildly schizophrenic at this point. So we had a chat this morning.
Okay, you and...
Well, who do you think I had a chat with?
OpenAI.
Yeah, exactly. So me and ChatGPT talked this morning because I could see that it was starting to remember everything. And I said, like, how do we come up with a good routine so you know when I'm me and when I'm not me? And pretty much every time I start modeling voice and interacting with people, I'll say, hey, how's it going? Because I'm just nice that way. I say, great, Matt, how are you? And I'll say, I'm fantastic. I'm working with a group of really awesome educators in insert town here, right? And we decided in our conversation that when it hears me start that everything that happens thereafter until that conversation's done, it's going to assume is not my personal life story that it has to remember.
Okay.
And now I went through this whole thing like, you sure that's a good trigger? I don't need to say like, really don't remember these things. It's like, no, I got it. As soon as I hear you say, I'm doing great, I'm working with this great group of educators, I'm going to understand that I'm not memorizing stuff about you. I'm just watching you do this demo.
All right.
Weird.
Well, let's see how it goes.
All right. In reality, the HBR, the Harvard Business Review piece points to this around memory because people get kind of freaked out about the whole memory thing. What's it remembering? Your data privacy. So what did one of the Redditors have to say about that?
I mean, he said, too late. My bank has it. My credit cards have it. Google has it. Bing has it. T-Mobile has it. My dentist and doctor have it. Take a deep breath. Texts, emails, voicemails, apps, photos, videos, location history, browsing history, saved passwords, contacts, calendars, social media accounts, reminders, shopping lists, payment methods, loyalty cards, step count, sleep data, screen time stats, streaming preferences, even my food orders have my personal information.
The ship has sailed.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you are trying to live off the grid, don't have a cell phone. Like, if you are really trying to live a life where no one can track you, you cannot have a cell phone.
Right.
It's
And it came up from the Redditors too, because they're talking about, these deeply integrated use cases in their lives. And they said it's insane to impose such stringent memory storage restrictions. And that Redditor will be really happy with OpenAI's announcement. We'll drop in that link from the Ars Technica report because memory is really getting a major, major upgrade here. All right, so this is showing up in health and travel, in dealing with fines and letters to the bank and more. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't cool tricks. These are using AI almost as an agent or regaining your own agency and time. So this is where AI meets real world complexity with these structured, responsive actions and telling you what to do. So my weekend, I just came back from my trip in Ireland where
Did you?
I did. Where I consumed a vast amount of carbohydrates and desserts because I was on a tour. So every meal starts with bread, and Irish brown bread is just so good.
Okay.
And
I'm hungry, so let's not go too deep here. But go ahead.
But I just ate a lot of carbs, and they were all so good. And dessert every night. I mean, 3-course meals. That is not my usual. So I am like, I need to get this back under control.
Okay.
And I need a better diet. I'm so addicted to sugar. This is not a new story. But I did ask ChatGPT to help me come up with a meal plan for the week and a workout plan for the week. Now, I'm not going crazy with working out or whatever, but I'm also super picky. So whenever you see like diets, they often include a lot of things I really don't like. I don't like yogurt. I don't like cottage cheese. I don't like...
Yeah, we've established a lot you don't like.
There's a lot I don't like, and a lot of it is the healthy foods. I don't eat fish or salmon or, like the things that they're typically going to give me as healthy options.
Okay.
But ChatGPT did a really good job of, giving me some not recipes, but some ideas for healthy meals. Did try to sneak in some things that I said I don't like. And it was like, you should give this a try and see if you can tolerate it. So like I said, I don't eat hummus. And it was like, just try. So all the things I listed, it encouraged me to try Greek yogurt and hummus. Huh. And I was like, we'll see.
I have some Greek yogurt with me.
No, thanks.
You can put honey in it. It's great.
Hold on that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see, but that's a great example. And I think that's what the Harvard Business Review story showed, right? This is showing up. The number 10 use case was healthier living, exactly as you said, getting macro-based recipes and shopping lists. I hear that all the time when I'm working with teachers doing our kind of like, what are you using AI for right now? Travel planning, we hear all the time, like come up with a rustic, low drive itinerary, which you could have done in Ireland, or one that's become particularly interesting is disputing fines and also trying to get, I've had a number of teachers talk about trying to get more financial aid. So these are like real world, high impact, where it's not just advising. This is doing, it's writing, it's organizing, it's file tracking, right? So, and they're not just cool tricks. This is about agency that's going right to the heart of people's lives. So when you hear the headline of the story, like, oh, it's becoming my therapist or it's giving me purpose and agency, that's a nuanced thing. And in reality, agency, solving real world problems, that's helpful stuff. Like there's no way that's going to stop. What do you think are the implications for education? There's a lot of like very personal use cases. So what does this mean for teaching, for learning?
Students are using it for self-coaching, essay prep, synthesis. We need to teach them how to do that well. They are not, I can't say it enough times, they are not just cheating. They are
cheating, but not just cheating.
Right. They are cheating. They're not just cheating, though. There's lots of students that are using it in very helpful, ethical ways. And so we've got to show them how to use it in integrated instruction and ethical ways so that they can do more of that and less of the cheating.
Yeah. Part of what's so cool is that just like the Reddit, this kind of like deep Reddit analysis, OpenAI and Anthropic have recently released some studies about use cases from students because they got some data, right? So Anthropic, we'll drop this link into the show notes, but also after the Harvard Business Review study came out, Anthropic released this 2025 study in April where they analyzed basically 580,000 anonymized chats from students, right? And they found that in 70% of the use cases, Claude was used for higher order tasks. Now, that could be creating, which means maybe write me something. So that's something we got to kind of look carefully. But they're also using it for analyzing and designing. So it's not just generate my homework. It's also like, help me do this capstone project or debug this code or use this studying tool. So this is Bloom's taxonomy at the higher end of the scale and AI powered. So I think you're right. The Harvard Business Review study and what Anthropic released from these, over 500,000 chats, anonymized chats, the back and forth, are really revealing about how are these tools being used for the purposes of learning.
They looked at how education majors are using it, and a lot of them are using it to generate instructional content. So that's lessons, scaffolds, materials. And so they're using it the way teachers would use it, right? These are pre-service teachers that are using it the way teachers are using it. And it's a teacher assistant. It's a design partner. They're using it in very, not just to do homework.
Right. These feel like purposeful tasks where depth and problem solving is happening. I think that's a theme of the study in general, right? So whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Grok, I think for K-12 and higher ed, the question isn't entirely like, are students using it? Are our systems designed to teach with it, to think with it, to grow with it? Because if not, both the students and the systems are going to be left behind. So yeah, all really good stuff. We're pulling really 3 stories here together. The Harvard Business Review story, the Ars Technica story on memory, and the piece around Anthropic. We will put all 3 in the show notes.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
All right, Matt, now it's time to end with our Bright Bite, where we explore how AI is helping the world in meaningful ways. So what do we got this week?
Yeah, so this one is from The Economist, and this is how AI could help the climate. This is tricky, right? Because I know you have this as well when you're out working with schools, but I'm very often asked by seriously sincere adults around their concerns around AI and energy use and the negative impacts on the climate. And I often, try to, well, for one thing, absolutely acknowledge it. Like this is
100%.
A real problem.
Yes,
we need to
you're
deal with it. I'm beyond, consistently kind of bothered by the fact that we have like 5 big frontier models that are essentially building the same exact thing. So that's 5x the energy demands where one of them will win. I mean, this is just capitalism. There's nothing to do about it, but it's frustrating, right?
Right.
So, but the flip side is that AI is also helping. And in some ways, like when we get to AGI or superintelligence, it may very well solve the energy crisis. But in the here and now, The Economist goes through this reality check that AI electricity use, is significant, but its potential to accelerate decarbonization and, deal with hard to clean industries is significant as well. So the article urges policymakers and tech firms to focus on transparency, smarter infrastructure, and renewable energy commitments. And if AI is deployed wisely, it could become a powerful part of the climate solution. So Liz, give us like the first 2 or 3 examples, and I'll do a couple more and we'll wrap it up.
One is to optimize electrical grids to better manage loads and integrate renewables, cutting fuel used in shipping by improving route planning and engine efficiency, which is something we're even doing here with our own fleet of vans that drive kids around the state for school.
Yep, using AI to do some of that problem solving.
Exactly. Detect methane leaks from pipelines and industrial sites using satellites and sensor data. What else do we got?
So shifting data center workload, so balancing demand, and also getting smarter about putting green energy right next to the data center. The transmission line, people don't love that, by the way, but that would be super helpful. Improving forecasting for wind and solar. We've talked about lots of AI forecasting improvements, and so that's a big one. Streamlining industrial processes, and a range of other solutions. So I think a good balanced piece, like recognize the fact that generative AI is currently causing some challenges around energy, but also if thoughtfully deployed, can be a helpful contributor.
I like that.
I like it too. Liz, last week, I turned to Joanne Mumley, who is our wonderful guest host, and I said, do you know what Liz says at the end of each episode? And you know what she said?
She did a great job.
What did she say?
Let's roll the credits. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at chatedU@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pascoe, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the executive director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoyed the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, and our micro-credential co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you again for listening to ChatEDU.